Hi everyone, this is Samurai12 here coming at you with a new video, and today we will be starting our cursive writing series with the alpha letter A. Now there are two ways of writing the capital letter A, and let us begin with the first method. So first method, as you can see here, on the top right corner, we can see a clear example of how the capital letter A should look like. And in cursive writing, it can be expressed as an algebraic expression or an equation. Now, how is that even possible, you may ask? That is a very good question. So with this capital letter A, to me, I can perceive this as the slanted capital letter C. When we add the slanted Eiffel Tower, then it will make a lot more sense. So slanted letter C plus the slanted Eiffel Tower, that would equal to your capital letter A. Now, funny thing about that Eiffel Tower that I just mentioned as part of the equation, that too can also be transformed into the second method, or the second way, which would be the slanted Eiffel Tower plus, think of the second part as a daisy petal that was just plucked. So now that equals to this exquisite capital letter A, which, if you've made it this far, congrats, and you did well in the process. Now, this one took me a couple of times to get it straightened out, so definitely if you were in the same situation as I was, just keep on trying and you will get there, because practice makes perfect. And the 2A, I would say, in this case, would be a symmetrical graph. Now, what do I mean by a symmetrical graph? In this case, So, if we were to break this down, think of it as if we look at the dotted lines through the center of these two graphs, one is an exponential curve, or a increasing curve, plus the decreasing curve, that would lead to the symmetrical curves, or the mirror of the curves itself. Think of it as a pure reflection in this case. And if we were to then make it look a bit cursive-y, I suppose, then we can add the base, so which would be the hyphen in the middle, then plus the little squiggly lines on both ends. Think of it as a cat whisker, so to speak. And when you add it all together, then you're gonna get something interesting. And fanciful A, so to speak, is not necessarily cursive from my perspective. However, it's good to look at. And also, if you're thinking of the Eiffel Tower when we first mentioned it, you can then think of a symmetrical curve, like we said, an increasing curve and a decreasing curve together, plus the hyphen, which would be the base of this building, plus the arc, which this definitely reminds me of an omega sign, or it just reminds me of a mouse hole, which then technically this would equal to a 2D style Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. Now, funny thing is that the symmetrical curves does remind me of a Chinese word, and that is human. So how do we do this? So we do one stroke down, it's kind of slanted, and then a short stroke located in the center. If you can see this finely dotted line, or bold dot, then we make it curve down. So to make it more simple, think of a long stroke on the very first part plus the short stroke on the second part. Now that equals to yan. Now, at first I thought yan, or the Cantonese word for yan, was spelled as yan for some reason. However, I was completely wrong. It was actually J-A-N. So keep in mind, it's J-A-N, not Y-A-N. And in Mandarin, you can actually pronounce this as Ren, so it's gonna be R-E-N. So make sure this is the Mandarin word for human, and this is the Cantonese word for human, which is yan. Yan is like, for me, how I perceive it is more of a lower tone, whereas the ren is a lot more of a higher tone. So higher tone and lower tone. And this is just for your information, for just in case if you do get into a situation where you do hear the word yan, then you can just say, oh, that means human. Now, excuse me for that. What are some of the examples for using the capital letter A? We can then start out with the word afternoon. So afternoon, be this. So the capital letter A in front. And now that we have done the capital A section, now we can then focus on the lowercase a. Now for the lowercase a, think of the first part as the squiggly line. Now this squiggly line can be found on your keyboard, which is located below the escape button. And this escape button, or below the escape button, will show an approximate sign. So this is an approximate sign, which would be used in electronic maths or maths in general, as a way of saying, let's say you have 4,578. So I would say approximately 4,600 in this case. So I'm just rounding the hundredth. So that is the approximate sign, plus the flower petal or the daisy petal that you just plucked from a daisy. And lastly, the hook. Now the hook can be written or drawn differently, and it's definitely your choice of preference. You can make it even more sharper with some sharper image right there, so that you can explicitly make it look like a real fishing hook, but for me, this one would do just fine. Now that would equal to the lowercase a. Congrats, you actually wrote the lowercase a. So to refresh is the squiggly line or the approximate sign plus the daisy petal that you just plucked, and lastly the hook. Now you got the lowercase a. And what are some of these examples of using the lowercase a? Now we can think of the story of the tortoise and the hare, which eventually the tortoise won because of his perseverance and humbleness, in comparison to the hare, who just ran for a short amount of time, then took a nap, thinking that he would immediately win the race, and just to find out he lost. So how do we write the word hare? So H-A-R-E, hare. Now we have the A in between the H and the R. So that's one example. Another example will be to use my December 12th name, which would be Sam. Over 12. So as you can see, the A is between the S and the M. And as I've gone through with the letter A in front of the other letters, you can use the afternoon example, or you could use the AM and PM example as well. So AM and PM. So those are the two methods of writing the capital A. So the first capital would be the slanted C plus the slanted Eiffel Tower. Second would be the slanted Eiffel Tower plus the flower petal. The 2A is more so a symmetrical graph, so an increasing graph plus a decreasing graph plus the base, and you can add the cat whiskers if you like, and that would get you to the cat whiskery Eiffel Tower, or you can make it look even more better, which would be a symmetrical graph plus the hyphen or the support base plus the mouse hole or the omega sign, and that would get you a 2D style Eiffel Tower. And of course the yan. Remember, it is a long stroke to the left and short stroke to the right, and can be pronounced as yan for Cantonese and ren for Mandarin. Now, before I end this video, I wanted to provide an update for the upcoming week, as I will be taking the second dose of the vaccine, and I have gathered a lot of the advices as well as heard stories of the side effects for the second dose, especially when it comes to using the Pfizer vaccine, which can affect for various people, and hopefully it won't be as bad as I am thinking right now. So I won't be able to post any videos as of next week, but God willing, I'll be able to post more videos or post some videos on the following week after that, after the recovery or this upcoming challenge. And if you all found this video quite helpful, please share it to a friend, family member, acquaintance, etc. And I appreciate all for your time and consideration, and I hope you all have a blessed day. Take care.